There's no doubt that if you get a monthly power bill, you know about the high cost of electricity. In fact, utility rates across the United States increased by 40% between 2000 and 2007. Much of that is because of the rising cost of fuel and the cost of providing all those power plants to provide the electricity. This year, the City of Leesburg will implement several important programs to help empower customers to conserve energy and to save money. Join us as we find out a lot more about this information. Paul, in our last program, we introduced this exciting project from Leesburg Electric and what they're doing to provide more information to customers to curb electric demands and beat the peak. Today, we're going to talk about a couple more issues that are another facet of the program. I want to find out a little bit about what Leesburg has been doing. Now, Leesburg has known about the peak, and you've actually been very proactive in trying to beat the peak. Could you tell me a little bit about what the city's been doing?
Well, actually, Robert, the city's been very innovative and proactive. Actually, since April of 2009, we've been deploying voltage optimization and reducing our demand, and we've been exercising 9 emergency generators that the city already has in place at critical infrastructure facilities.
Now, with those emergency generators, what are you operating those at certain times? How does that work?
Yes, on the days that we believe to be the coincident peak hour, we exercise those generators. In other words, we start running them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we shut them off at 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm. So instead of buying electricity off of the grid, you're actually exercising the generators that you normally have to exercise anyway, but you're kind of creating your own energy on site and not buying it.
That's correct, and it's called distributed generation because the electricity from those generators is coming from within the grid rather than from a central power plant.
Now that seems pretty smart then. By generating your own energy then, that's cheaper than buying the energy during peak hour.
Well, remember we talked about the electricity that we buy from our wholesale power supplier during the coincident peak hour is about $25 a kilowatt hour, and we can generate it for much, much, much less than that.
That is really smart, Paul. I'm telling you, compliments to the city on that one. Now, is anybody else doing this? Do you have partners?
Well, actually, we're partnering with the Leesburg Regional Medical Center at their main facility and with 2 public stores. And we'll have some additional exciting news to announce in the next several months because some of our other larger customers will be installing generators at their facilities also.
Okay, so Publix, 2 public stores and Leesburg Regional Medical Center, they've been participating, operating their emergency generators, exercising the generators during the specific times. And coupled with that, with what the city's been doing, what kind of savings are you talking about here?
We're approaching $5 million right now and still growing.
I'm sorry, did you say $5 million?
We're approaching $5 million in savings and still growing.
That is exciting, Paul. So I guess that obviously shows that there really is a lot to this about curbing the peak demands and the savings that can be realized from it.
We not only know what to do, we also know when to do it. And we want to share that information with all of our other customers so those that want to participate and partner with us will have that opportunity.
Well, now we'll be talking a little bit about how our residential customers can participate and how they can be a little bit more active as well in curbing peak demands and realize savings on their bills. But while we're on this side about the commercial side of it and how our commercial customers are benefiting, can others, companies that are out there of a sizable nature, can they contact you and find out how they could do it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, tell you what, let's go inside next and find out a little bit about some optional pricing programs that you're going to be offering to customers here so our residential customers can beat the peak.
Great.
Paul, not everybody has the luxury of having an emergency generator on site so they can exercise it at the peak and provide their own energy. We've got to figure out how residential customers, how can they take advantage of this? I know we're here at the customer service department, but tell me a little bit more about what the Leesburg Electric is going to be doing for our residential customers.
Well, Robert, we're going to be offering optional pricing plans so that people can take a look at, think about their own lifestyle and maybe some opportunities to shift the way they use electricity, and they will be given the opportunity to get the price signals so they can make a much more informed buying decision. And for those customers that don't want to do anything, then that's fine too. They'll remain on the rate that they're on right now, which is a fixed rate. But we believe that customers will have the opportunity to save money by taking advantage of one of these optional pricing plans. As a matter of fact, earlier we talked about Oklahoma Gas and Electric.
That's right, we did.
And there, 98% of those customers that elected to be on an optional pricing plan saved money. Some saved a little, some saved a lot.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, everybody's been used to, for years and years and years, of only getting one bill. And that's the one price they pay. And they may not be real familiar with optional pricing plans and finding out what's best for them. Will there be like a trial period or some time that they can actually be able to look at the bills and have them better decide what might fit their needs best?
Well, Robert, remember we talked about installing the meters in June, July, and August. Mm-hmm. We will be offering these optional rate programs in the fall. So we'll already have a baseline for customers and how they're using electricity today. So our customer service people or on our website, folks will be able to see, if I could shift some of the load from these hours over to those hours, I would have an opportunity to save money.
So they'll actually be able to see their usage after the meters are installed and a little bit of a test period, but they'll actually be able to go online and see their usage and actually be able to compare and contrast the different plans to see what worked.
Well, they'll be able to compare their usage today to their usage last month or this month to last month.
Wow.
And as we gain additional information to the previous year, not only for the aggregated month, but also be able to see if they're using more power or hopefully less power during these peak hours.
Wow. Well, I understand from the program that there's different ways the customer can get information on their energy use. If they're not computer savvy or not really have a computer available to them, they can schedule an appointment with our customer service reps, thus we're in the customer service department here. They can actually do a call-in system. But I wanted to talk specifically a little bit about something extra. A lot of our customers might be familiar with the City of Leesburg's electric website, part of the City of Leesburg's total website. And they know a little bit about what information is provided there, but this new upgrade that you're providing with the electric utility is going to have a web portal. This web portal seems to be a one-stop shop of information. Can you tell us a little bit about how the customers will interact to get that or find out more about their electric use?
Well, and the web portal is being developed right now, so it isn't finalized, it isn't available, and we'll have the opportunity to look at what applications on that portal were more interesting than others. But we'll be able to give people tips, conservation tips, suggestions on loads that may be on during the peak hours that they may be able to shift to off-peak hours, and we believe that information coupled with the customer's own initiative and innovation will allow them to save money.
Okay, great. Obviously, the focus of these utility upgrades, it sounds like a wonderful thing. Everybody's going to get the opportunity to better manage their energy use, maybe to change some habits and curb their peak time use and basically beat the peak, lower their energy bills a little bit. But there's other features to this upgrade as well.
Right.
And I want to ask you about a couple of these if I could. Prepay. I understand that this is a new term. A lot of people may not be familiar with this because we're used to using our energy. The bill comes in the mail, you pay for it. How does prepay work?
Well, prepay on an electric account works very similar to a prepaid phone card. So you put down whatever amount that you want to. Let's say a new customer comes in, they may be asked for a $300, $400, $500 deposit. Well, they don't want to put down the deposit like that, but they have $75 they can put on their account. So that amount goes on the account, and then as electricity is used, then they'll be notified, what the balances are, particularly when it hits some set point that the customer would decide. Let's say there's only $25 left on that account. So they have an opportunity to make another deposit at any ATM is what we're envisioning, and then that money goes right back onto their account, but they don't have to put down a large deposit.
Well, it's really convenient. The large deposit is something that a lot of our newer customers have experienced because where the economy has changed and some of the changes that all utilities have had to do. A lot of utilities start out with a new account that there's a big deposit to go with that.
Right.
For some residents, this prepay would be able to allow them to use the prepay option to defer having that big deposit.
That's right. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me at all if some of our existing customers don't come into customer service and want to transfer their account from a post-pay to a prepay account.
That's very good. I didn't think about that. The prepay seems to have another option to it, or another facet to it, excuse me. Whereas if somebody only wanted to pay a certain amount, let's say they wanted to stay on budget, it seems like the prepay would help people focus a little bit more about staying on budget so that maybe they can curb their energy use through the month to make sure they use only the amount they want to pay.
Right. Well, actually, Robert, the web portal will allow all customers to establish a budget. We talked about a few other times, you know, let's say they didn't want to spend more than $150 this month. So as the month progresses, you could go to that web portal, see how you're doing, which is much different from the way things are today.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of these things that I don't quite understand, but I've heard this and it sounds really intriguing. The utility upgrades in the smart meters that we've actually talked about introducing that you're going to be installing this year will actually shorten power outages. How does that work?
Okay, well, there's a feature inside the meter that when commercial power is lost, in other words, the power goes out, the way things work today, we don't know about that outage until customers start calling us. But these new technology meters will have what's called a last gasp, that when they lose commercial power, they'll actually send a signal to the utility that says, oh, I'm out of power, I'm out of power. So we can see exactly which customers are affected and which ones are not.
Oh, really? So typically, let's go with the typical scenario when the power goes out. The electric utility then has to go search the whole area to figure out where the outage came from?
That's correct, and that's where the time savings comes in.
Well, so now you'll know specifically where the outage came from where the first gasp came out of.
That's right, the last gasp.
Wow, that's absolutely an amazing aspect of it. And I understand that later on down the road, through the intercommunications of these meters and stuff, that eventually the utility will be able to self-heal itself and maybe redirect power around an outage?
That's right. That's in a later version of what we'll be doing. But one of our
down the road
goals and our vision is to operate a more reliable and resilient grid.
Wow, that is amazing. Obviously, that's something to look forward to down the road, but it just shows you what the possibilities are, that there are so many great things that this will provide. Paul, what we need to do now is find out a little bit more about what customers can do. We talked and identified already what the peak is, what the peak hours are, and why it is that we're going to provide incentives to customers to curb that usage during that time and beat the peak. What I want to find out now, let's head back to the house, and you can tell us a little bit about some of the activities they can do to, again, reduce their demands out of that peak time, okay?
Sounds good.
Paul, the big question is, we've talked about peak time, and that's the time we're focusing on that people should be diverting their energy use away from. So what can people do around the home actually to try to conserve energy and to move some of their use away from peak time?
Well, one way would be to make sure that large electric appliances like pool pump is not on during that 3 to 5 p.m. period of time. So you know, you can set it from 9 to, let's say, 2:30 or something like that, or you can even run the pool pump at night. Also, you would want to make sure that the water heater doesn't come on, and many people are putting timers on that, or load controls for the water heaters are also available. And if you're able to, maybe set the thermostat up a few degrees, and that's going to be one of the programs that we're going to offer as an option to customers if they would allow the utility to control that thermostat. So, you know, clothes drying also, if the dryer is an electric one, you want to shift that off of that 3 to 5 p.m. peak.
Mm-hmm. So we're not actually asking folks to start doing their laundry at 1 in the morning or anything like that?
No, not at all.
Okay, great. It sounds like it's pretty easy then that customers can just, with some simple modifications, move some of their energy use away from that peak then.
Well, it's not only very easy, but it's also very convenient, and there's an opportunity to save money on your electric bill, which is a big driver.
Yeah. Well, we've covered a lot of information over these two programs, and I know it's a lot to absorb. Paul, where can people find out more?
Well, you can go to the city's website, www.leesburg, all spelled out, .gov, and there's a link on there, on that website. There's also the utility newsletter, and to schedule a presentation for your homeowners association or business group, you can call City Hall.
You mean you would actually come out and talk to the residents about this in person?
Absolutely.
Good. We look forward to seeing you out there. Paul, thank you very much, and I appreciate you sharing such great information.
Thank you, and thanks a lot to our customers.